And now here's Pat Callahan with your first cup of political brew.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for News Center Maine's Political Brew. Glad you could be with us, along with Democratic activist Betsy Sweet and former Yarmouth Town Councilor and Republican State Senator Phil Harriman. Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Pat.
Some rather grim news from last weekend that we begin with. There was a gunman who killed 10 people in a racially motivated mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. Afterward, Republican Representative Liz Cheney accused her party's leaders of enabling white nationalism, white supremacy, and anti-Semitism because some members of the party have been criticized for echoing what's known as the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. Phil, let me ask you, as a Republican, is that fair criticism, do you think, of some Republicans in Washington?
No, I don't think it's fair criticism. I'm proudly a Republican. It doesn't represent my views of way we should behave as citizens. Let's remember, too, that the night before in Milwaukee, after the Celtics-Bucks game, there was another mass shooting, not of the carnage that we saw here. So there's clearly a problem in our country with who has guns. That's separate from what I think, in this case, is a mental health issue, not a white supremacy or a Republican issue. This is someone with mental health issues.
Yeah, I don't think hate is a mental health issue. And I think that he saw, if you look at the manifesto that he wrote, 180 pages, it is lifted directly. And I think you're right, it's not the whole Republican Party, but certainly the right wing of the Republican Party is fostering that kind of hate and sort of making it not only possible, but encouraging people to go out and live out that hate. And that's exactly what this kid said he was doing.
And even the Wall Street Journal, in an op-ed piece, an opinion piece, said that leaders need to call out this. It doesn't mean you're supporting it, but if you don't speak out against it.
Right, and kudos to Liz Cheney for doing that. You know, but she's being massacred in her own party for doing exactly that. When we let it go, then it sends just as powerful message as what happened.
And I would just say, I'm calling it out here this morning. I'm calling it out, but I would also tell you, as a Republican, I don't hear from people of that persuasion. They're not reaching out to me to try to persuade me. So wherever they are, let's find them and expose them.
And President Biden called this an act of domestic terrorism. Senator Susan Collins, who's a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, says that sounds like an accurate description to her. And she had a one-on-one meeting this week with Attorney General Merrick Garland and told us she planned to speak with him about what more needs to be done to root out white supremacist groups that recruit and radicalize Americans. And I guess, Betsy, you ask, is this a legitimate threat that Congress needs to do something about?
It is, and I'm very glad she's doing it. If you look at the statistics of who dies at the hands of terrorists, 56% of the terrorism homicides in this country are white supremacists. So it is a huge problem, and again, we have to root it out, call it out, and stop it.
Yeah, it is terrorism, and it doesn't matter what color the skin is or what your religious beliefs are, it's terrorism. And the Attorney General of the United States, that is his or her responsibility, and I'm glad that this is going to get the attention and the focus that it needs.
The Republican primary in Maine's 2nd Congressional District is less than a month away. Candidate Liz Caruso, a selectman from Caratunk, appeared on News Center Maine this week after the other candidate, former Congressman Bruce Poliquin, declined our offer to appear with Caruso in a Voice of the Voter forum. That's pretty unusual, Phil. I think Maine voters expect to see their candidates show up and face their opponents and make their case.
I couldn't agree more. Who doesn't want to sit down with Pat Callahan for a half an hour, an hour?
Doesn't have to be me. You know?
And, I mean, this is a statewide broadcast. Anybody who's got an interest in politics can tune into this station and get your style of leadership. Why would you not do that? Answer: because the political brain surgeons behind the scenes statistically say, don't do this, you're probably going to get exposed in a way that's not beneficial, so just take a pass.
Well, and Liz Caruso told us not only won't he debate her on camera, not off camera either, because every every county Republican committee has issued invitations that he has declined.
Well, and I think we have to say, Poliquin showed who he was before, right? Remember him ducking into the bathroom to avoid constituents who want to talk to him? So, you know, as Maya Angelou says, when people tell you who they are, believe them the first time. That's who he has been, and I agree with you, this is a political consultant thing. We see it happening in primaries in this state and all over the country, to say, don't talk, and, you know, instead of saying, here's what I'm about, here's what you get to know about me, then you decide based on what I say, to say, oh, don't say anything, and then we can just fool them and pretend that, you know, you're not who you are. It's a bad trend.
Two Maine state senators, Democrat Bill Diamond and Republican Jeff Timberlake, are leading the push for more child welfare reforms. This is a fight they've been involved in for some time, Diamond in particular, especially following high-profile deaths of children at the hands of caregivers. And last year was the worst year on record for deaths of children in state custody. Now, they argue that one thing needed is to have the state be more open to suggestions from the outside, something they say has been a problem through several administrations. Two lawmakers on the Health and Human Services Committee, on the other hand, Michelle Meyer and Mike Brennan, wrote an op-ed saying some lawmakers were not getting their facts straight and that the legislature, DHHS, and Governor Mills have a good plan and the focus has to be on implementing that, not more talk and task forces. Betsy, where do you come down on this?
Well, it's clearly a terrible issue. And I think we have to go back even further. It's a resource issue. You know, we have not put the resources into caring for our kids in state custody, and what the needs of those birth parents and people are to start, you know. So I think there is a plan in place. Whether it's enough, we'll see. But I think the idea of transparency and being open to suggestion and open to people, I think that's a really important thing. And there is a plan. We don't know if it's going to be enough, but certainly they should. If it's me, it's like, oh, please give us all the ideas you have, because this is an intractable problem that's resulting in horrific consequences.
You know, as you rightly point out, Senator Diamond, for probably more than a decade, has been focused on this issue. Timberlake as well, more recently. I understand their need for, let's study this more often, but as someone who served on the Health and Human Services Committee, I can tell you there's a lot of accountability that's expected and asked for of the administration. And if they say they've got a plan, I say, let's get it implemented.
Yeah.
We've got a lot more to talk about on Political Brew this morning. We'll do that in the next hour. News Center Maine is back after this.